Bolcha, welcome to this Oracle card reading for the week. I haven't done one of these in a time, and this one is a little bit different because I am going to be sharing with you um, from today and my intention for, the time to come over the coming weeks and months is from my own Oracle deck, which has been dreaming itself to life for a time, but really landed at the summer solstice when we were doing this 9-day Celtic solar ritual with Lou and Anya. And this really came through for me. And I have just been, following that otherworldly muse that's bringing this deck to life. So I don't have a physical card in my hand today. I do have my candle lit here, opening up the sacred space. But for now, my oracle cards, as they, come to life, are, they're in my notebook, and then they are brought into form, just on the screen for now. So this is the one that I want to share with you today. And the working title of this deck at the moment is the Celtic Dream Oracle. And I want it to be quite an active oracle deck. So I really want, people to be able to journal in response to, metabolize whatever is explored in the card, the symbolism of the card, to metabolize that through your own body so that you can make meaning with it. So we begin today, and I feel, I just followed the intuition around which card to share as the first card. It may look different in the deck. I don't know. We'll see where the energy takes me over time. But just being in this energy of the cauldron this week, particularly as we are moving into the harvest season of Lunasa. We're at the end of the season of Bealtaine, that blooming phase, and now we're moving into the harvest, season, and bringing that intention of discernment, awareness, celebration, getting really attuned to what we deeply desire to take forward into the depths of Samhain, right into the dark months. And so the cauldron here, this particular cauldron is inspired by the Cauldron of Plenty within Irish mythology, the Coire Ansic. And this cauldron belongs to the Dagda. He is the father of all of the TUATH. He is a great, big, benevolent provider god. He's got a huge energy. And not only is he a provider, but he's also a magician. He's a warrior. He's a harpist, he's got that kind of multi-dynamic nature of the TUATH, and they're very magical gods, and they really value creativity and the arts. And the Cauldron of Plenty is one of the 4 treasures that they bring with them to Ireland. And these treasures come from mystical islands. They're often kind of spoken as, that they come from the north, which where I am now would be from this direction, right? So they're coming from this direction. And the cauldron comes from a mystical city called Murius. Now, the root of that word Muir is the old Irish word for the sea. It's actually part of my own name. So Murphy in Irish is Murcu, which means hound of the sea. Cu is hound, and Muir is sea, as I said. So it's come from this mystical island. And this cauldron, what is so magical and otherworldly about this cauldron is that it never runs dry. And nobody ever encounters this cauldron and leaves unsatisfied, right? So whatever need that you have when you encounter this cauldron, it will be provided for you because the cauldron can never run dry. And this is symbolic of the nature of the soul, the nature of the divine, it never runs dry. It is limitless, and like for me, the Cauldron of Plenty really speaks to that this sense that the broth of life actually comes from our relationship with the other world, with the unseen realm of the divine, and that when we consume, or nourish ourselves from that place, that we enter into a spirit of co-creation with the divine. We're nourished from a very deep soul-led place. And the phrase that I put on this card, and I wasn't sure about the word consume, but I did it intentionally, right? So it says consume from the cauldron. And the reason I use the word consume is because obviously consume is a word in common parlance. You consume things, you are a consumer, and we are kind of, a lot is presented to us within the overculture that, that we're consumers, and in order to really thrive in life, that we need to consume in the sense of the accumulation of things. So, the nicer car or the bigger house or whatever it may be, not that those things are necessarily wrong, but it's the intention behind them, that we really like. What is the reason that we desire to consume something? Is a question that we'll be exploring with this card, because consuming is presented to us as something that's outside of ourselves. But what if we were to, firstly, consume from our inner world, or be consumed by it, right? Be consumed by the other world, consume from that place. And actually, I had a wonderful reading, as always, recently with a dear friend of mine, Regina de Burca, around the Tarot Oscailga, the Irish Tarot. And we were talking about this idea of, where we talk about, consume less, create more. But what if it was about not only consume less, create more, what about being consumed by the other world? Because when we focus our consumption on the cauldron, on drinking from that brew, it's no longer about consumption. It's actually about reciprocity. And that is a core idea for our ancestors, of being in reciprocity with the other world, of like, if I'm going to source, consume from that cauldron, and to inform and guide my life, I'm going to be making decisions that are deeply honoring of the ancestors and of my soul's journey. So there's a reciprocity at play there. And so a journal question that I have around this card is to, maybe in the day ahead or the week ahead, to ask yourself, well, what am I consuming and why? Right? So, and particularly around the external at the moment, what am I consuming and why? And so, for example, you might be consuming something on social media that feels really expansive for you, that it actually feels really enlivening, right? So watch the feeling state in response to whatever you're consuming, that your shoulders are going back, your heart is opening because this thing that you've engaged with is helping you to feel really expansive. And because in the cauldron territory, we're also in that energy of maybe the cups in tarot. We're in the feeling function in Jungian psychology. So the kind of watery dimension. So allow the feelings to inform what you're consuming, or your response to what you're consuming. And then they can be a guide in the future for making decisions around what you consume. So, for example, you might be consuming other people's thoughts. You might be consuming other people's projections onto you, their unlived parts onto you. Or you may be consuming someone's expectation about how you are to live your life. We consume other people's energy. We don't just consume things, we consume people's energy as well. So, again, what am I consuming and why? And then responding, noticing the feeling state in your body as a guide. And then once you have that discernment about, well, maybe I no longer want to consume this, take that energy back and use that energy to spend more time with the inner cauldron, right? To consume from the cauldron of plenty. And you might like to do that through a creative practice, like just even by journaling. You might like to do it by spending some time in nature. You might like to do it through your own ritual practice. You might like to do it by pulling an oracle card for yourself, whatever it may be. When you've claimed that energy back from what you're consuming from the external, then bring it into the cauldron. Use that energy, that time, that space then to, consume from the cauldron. And so I have, well, actually, I'll talk about the symbolism of this card first of all. So we obviously have a cauldron here. And just to say, what else do I want to say? Yeah, just to say about the cauldron as well, one thing to mention, as I said, it belongs to the Dagda, who is this benevolent god. One of the names of the Dagda, he's many names, is Fair Ben, which means peaked or horned man, like the Cernunnos figure in the Gundestrup cauldron, the really famous kind of Celtic cauldron that was found in Denmark. So we have this, yeah, just to invite in that kind of that's some more symbolism around the cauldron and this energy, right? So we've got the cauldron here, the cauldron of plenty. And building on the Dagda energy, what we have here is Jupiter, because for me, the Dagda has that Jupiter planetary, expansive, benevolent provider energy, trusting in providence, in our creative work in particular. And this is actually a rendering from an old astronomical drawing by Etienne Leopold Trouvelot or Trouvelot from the 1800s. So I took that, to kind of make the collage. And around the Jupiter figure, right? So you've got Jupiter's storm here, but I see that as an eye. I see that as, this idea in Irish mythology that we should always have one eye on the outer world and one eye on the inner world, right? So the one, there's only one eye there, right? That's the eye that's turned inwards into the cauldron, into the inner world. And then around this is, the magnetic field that is created through this. Jupiter has the biggest magnetic field, I think, in the solar system. It's massive anyway, it's magnetism. It's the king of the planets, essentially. So it has this massive magnetism. And for me, magnetism actually, the most magnetic people tend to be those that actually have turned inwards and they've cultivated their magnetism from the inside out, as opposed to, consuming a particular thing or owning a particular thing, and wanting magnetism because you own a particular thing. It doesn't actually work like that. Magnetism comes from the field, comes from the inside out. And so again, that's one of the benefits of actually turning inwards, is that you inherently, create a magnetic force field around you that actually attracts synchronicities and all manner of possibilities into your life as well. So just the energy moving there. And also there's movement, I created this kind of, reminds me of a fairy witch a bit, but this kind of, I wanted to show the energy that the cauldron moves. The cauldron actually sings in Irish mythology. It moves, it's alive, it's a being. So just again, the cauldron itself has its own magnetic field. And then just some of the key words around this would be, abundance, vessel, right? So by turning to the cauldron, you're also creating a vessel of containment for your spiritual practice, whatever that may be. Soul sustenance, right? Giving your soul, putting your soul care at the center of your self-care. benevolence, and that spirit of reciprocity as well. So yeah. So Sinead, that's my first share of the Celtic Dream Oracle, and more of that will be to come. And yeah, and I guess just, as well, just to mention that in the spirit of creativity and sourcing from the cauldron, that I do have my Celtic Soul Garden course coming up now in that's going to take us from Lunasa into Samhain, right? So over an 8-week period where perhaps you have an oracle deck or a variation of a tarot deck or something that you want to bring to life and that you would love to immerse yourself in myth work, body work, and dream work as a way to develop a framework for your creativity. So Celtic Soul Garden is about providing a framework rooted in the Celtic seasons and also inspired by the 4-stage alchemical process, the archetypal alchemical process, to bring whatever it is that you desire to life. And I'm using this, as I create this oracle deck, I've used it on many projects. And yeah, and we had a first cohort through Celtic Soul Garden a couple of months ago, and that was alchemical. It really was just an absolute gift, So I will leave it there. I'll, share the card. I'll share the journal prompt with the email with this video, and I'll also share a link to Celtic Soul Garden if anybody is interested. So yeah, Sinead from me today. I will blow out my candle now. In honor of the cauldron that sings in each one of you. Agus Marcia Natasha, and so it is. So that is it. Slán for now. Bye for now.